Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show today. I've been waiting for this show for a number of weeks. You know, when you watch the show, you know we talk about sports and athletics quite often. Many of you know that I played college football for 1 year at Oregon State University, you know, back in the day when there was probably leather helmets back then. That's how long ago that was. But one thing that really resonated for me, you know, going through the university, going through college, and then of course talking to all my friends whose, you know, kids are now through college as well, is talking about college athletes and talking about job success and what happens to the employers that are employing these great athletes who also have university degrees. I mean, what a great combination. So we've been able to invite on the show today the CEO and founder of FirstString, and it's a great platform. His name is Mr. Barry Jones. He's a very successful entrepreneur in his own right throughout the years that he's been in business. And he and his son and an incredible technology team put together a great, what I call game-changing career platform, really, that is delivering a technology to connect employers, universities, and leading athletes in one platform. And it's a great idea. Barry, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
I mean, hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and, you know, tell people a little bit about what FirstString's doing and how we're changing the whole world of recruiting.
I love it. It's such a great idea. Of course, your son was a former Division I student athlete who competed at the University of Georgia, I think in both track and field, and he served as the captain of the cross country team. So this is a young man that really, you know, loved to run. And you and Tyler put together this platform to help athletes sort of understand the job market, get jobs, and then work with the universities to place those athletes in great companies, and then also teach the companies about how great these athletes are to have on their team. But let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. Tell us a little bit about what you do at the company, what you're doing at FirstString, and then we have so many questions for you.
Oh, hey, thanks, Andy. This is, again, thanks for having me on. What an amazing opportunity. So what we're doing at FirstString, actually, honestly, we're going to change the world of recruiting. It's stuck in an archaic kind of format right now. Again, I've got some experience in that sector. But you know what? Something that happened to our house, happened to our family. We thought, wait a minute. There's got to be some better way to help these young men and women who have full-time jobs in college, right? You've been there, full-time jobs, okay, full academic schedules. They still graduate on time. They learn all these awesome life skills while they're on the field, the court, and the pool, all those things, right? And then they're told, you know what? When you graduate, pay your dues like everybody else. You don't have time for extensive internships and part-time jobs, you know. You've got practice, you've got meetings, you've got all these kind of things going on. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of great schools out there, including Georgia, have a phenomenal system. Andy, they have that in place. But here's the key component. It's time. They just don't have the time to take advantage of those resources. So what we want to do is come up with this technological advancement that says, hey, we're going to put the basis of this education on how to win interviews, how to succeed when you leave in business life. And we're going to put it in a kind of a micro learning context to where you do it on your own time through video. Okay.
I love it. I love it. I mean, it's so powerful. You've taken your background and experience in business and recruiting, and you combined it with, you know, some of the challenges that your family had with regard to sort of potentially getting a job or inserting, you know, a member of your family team into the workplace. And here you are with this great technology platform that's really changing the world. It's really a game-changing career platform. And like you mentioned, athletes, when they're in college or at the university, I mean, they've got a full-time job. I mean, they wake up in the morning, they have to do their schoolwork, and then, you know, they go to classes, and then they have to practice, and then they practice some more, and they have to go watch film, and then they have to have another, you know, study session, and then another film session. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable when you think about it, Barry, the types of companies that hire these university athletes, the type of quality person that they're getting out of the university is incredible. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, well, you know what? You're spot on. I mean, when you have individuals that, again, you're in the pool at 5 a.m. every day. You're running at 6 o'clock. You're running again at 4 o'clock. Career fair days. What's that? You have no time to get there. But these I call it, they're really literally forged in the fire of life while they're in college with all this responsibility to compete. Because if you lose your scholarship, you can't go to school for most of these young kids, right? Okay. And then you've got academic pressure, and then you've got the social pressure. I mean, come on, man, it's coming from everywhere for these young people, and they make it through it. They power through it, right? So what an employer is going to get. And again, most of us at FirstString, we're prior college athletes in the day. You know I don't look like it, okay, anymore, but you know what I mean? So we got it, we get it, then we lived it, and our kids actually some lived it as well. So we see the quality of these young men and women knowing, I mean, literally, look at this, time management. Are you kidding? 2 practices a day, wait time, film time, got class, got a project, got to study for a final, got a term paper. They got to put it all together. And when you look at discipline, they show up, and every day they show up, because if they don't, they know what happens, right? So nothing is going to stand in their way of accomplishing their goal of competing at a high level and graduating with a degree, and then giving some company out there, some lucky company is going to get, I'm telling you, a new employee that has a sense of teamwork and loyalty. It's ingrained in their soul by the time they leave. They just want to connect, man. They want to connect, and they don't want to let anybody down. They want to pull more than their weight, and they want to be the best at what they do. I mean, if you describe that for an employee for a company, man, they're beating down your door.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Of course, FirstString is available on Google Play and the Mac App Store. It's really a great technology, and it's a great platform. You mentioned the video. We want to get into that momentarily. But when I look at it, from my perspective, I see that you've got the universities, you've got the athletes, and you've got the employers, and then you have the technology platform to sort of fit it all together. So let's look at each one of those components. From the university standpoint, it looks to me, from what we've been able to see and read, that they're loving this platform. I mean, they want to get involved. They're starting to knock on the door and say, hey, Barry, we want in FirstString. So let's talk about the universities coming on board.
Oh, you know what? We had a great conversation yesterday with a really large university, because what we're giving them is something they've never had before. A lot of people come in and say, hey, we can connect maybe athletes with jobs, and alumni do that. They do a great job of that. But what we're going to come in and do is say, listen, we can train these individuals. We can train them. And first of all, we look back at, we tell them who they are. So we have doctors, PhDs, and part of our medical research department at FirstString. We develop strength finders just for athletes. We develop mental toughness training just for athletes. And mental toughness, let me talk about that a little bit. That's not on the field. We teach them how to transition that to a business world and a life world. Now back to the universities, okay? What do they get out of this? Well, they get a hands-off private portal to everything that's happening with their athletes, okay? The data component that we get to help them organize everything that goes on. Most of these institutions, literally Division III, Division II, and I, they have like 500 to 700 athletes, and these career placement people who do an amazing job, they're outnumbered like 100 to 1. So we come in as a complementary tool to them to help them organize things, okay? And then we give them the outcomes data that they need for their student athletes, okay? We tell them how good they're doing, where they're at, the whole 9 yards. So we are an absolute true partner that the universities have never had before.
Wow, I love it. It's so great. And of course, many, many years ago, when you watched a college football game on TV, the announcers would always talk about the graduation rate, and that became a big thing to talk about. But I would imagine in the future, they're going to be talking about the employment rate and as well, which will be very interesting.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Like we call it, actually, it's a FirstString thing. We call it the success rate. Okay, so you have the graduation rate, and you're like, it's a 6-year graduation rate. Okay, a lot of these athletes, I'm telling you, even with all the challenges they have, they still graduate in 4 years. Okay, if they graduate in 4 years, that's amazing. Okay, so.
Yeah, it's great, Barry. What a great process. So we spoke about the universities. They're excited because they're getting data, they're getting information, and they're able to improve these college athletes because they're using your system, and you're training these college athletes to be ready for the real world, to be ready for employment, where oftentimes at the university, that's a little bit of a challenge where they're actually teaching people how to perform in a job or at an employer's place of business. Now let's talk about it a little bit, because you have a great team, and let's now talk about the student athletes. So they come on the platform. Let's see what that looks like. You're using video very effectively, but give us the high level of what that looks like.
Okay, so great question. So when it's super, super easy, I mean, for them to come on, they create a profile like any other app, right? But the difference is they get to do things from a video perspective that nobody else is doing. Okay, they get to put themselves on to show to potential employers their potential. Okay, and so we don't allow them to be judged by their resumes, because their resumes are that thin, and we think that's unfair. So we think the bias, by the way, of AI in the corporate world, and I experienced this, and my team experienced this, when it scrubs for keywords, Andy, it looks for experience. And these young men and women who are amazing, their resume never sees the light of day. So here's what we do. We pull them in. We teach them how to pitch themselves. And so when employers come on, look at their profile, they get to see them pitch. They get to see who they are from a human being perspective. In fact, one of our personas is, listen, at FirstString, we believe every voice deserves a chance to be heard. Okay.
I love it. Yeah. Very powerful, Barry, of course. And we want to talk about the employers just for a minute, but these student athletes, even when they're in high school, they're so used to video. I mean, a lot of them are using third-party platforms like Huddle to put their videos up on screen so that potential college recruiters can see them perform on the field. And what you've done is you're now using video at your platform to help them sort of get a job after they're the student athlete. And I love that transition from high school to the university to after. So let's talk about employers. What do they get when they hire a student athlete?
So, well, first of all, the employer also has their own private portal, and they get to see the progress of every athlete they've ever connected with. Okay. Where they're at in the process of hiring, you name it, who they've contacted. So we keep them completely organized, and it's a no-brainer. They don't have to do sourcing and searching like recruiters do all the time. Okay. And what do they get when you, oh my gosh. Okay. I have hired college athletes, and gentlemen on my staff have hired college athletes in our corporate careers. And what they get are people you don't have to micromanage. You don't have to look over their shoulder. They're self-starters, okay? And talk about when they want feedback, coachability. Andy, come on, man. Today, if you tell somebody, hey, gosh, you're not doing that right, some get offended, right? Tell that to an athlete. Are you kidding me? They're going to be like, got it. You know what? As long as it's respectful feedback, as long as it's thriving, it's good, okay, and it's fair, these young men and women are going to knock it out of the park for you. And here's the thing that we're going to solve too. Not solve the whole thing, not that big, but $1 trillion a year, I think according to Gallup, is lost by employee turnover in the US alone. That's because they don't align themselves really well. Like when you got a job fresh out of college, all right, what? We needed to pay rent and we needed to eat, right? That was the priority. I'll tell you what, with the information age now out, these young people want to align their values and their cultural persona to the appropriate company for a very long-term relationship. And companies that keep people a long-term are just save tons and tons of their bottom line. Okay. So we have an AI program, a proprietary AI program that completely matches these individuals scientifically to the companies. And then we add the humanity component to it. So there's a human connection. So we use science plus humanity, and we hope this is the employee that's going to be good for you.
Wow, I love it so much. I mean, you've thought of everything. It's really a remote orientated age, and you really built the app for that. And, video resumes, authentic connections with great job candidates and science-based career testing and, a very AI-driven candidate employer matching protocol, introductory videos. I mean, everything. Now, let's talk about your team, because when we look at what you're doing at FirstString, you've put together a remarkable team on your platform, the people that are running sort of the business behind the scenes. How important is your team to the success of FirstString?
I mean, that is a phenomenal question with an easy answer. FirstString is my team. They know I'm the weak link, man. Okay. Just saying. I mean, I have such amazing people. I mean, we average probably 30 years experience. We've started up companies in the past, joined organizations, and helped it go from zero to billions of dollars in our careers. And we have most of us are prior athletes. We actually have prior professional baseball player that works with us that is now in the working world. So I wanted to diversify our staff to the point to where we have people that know all the intricacies of the business. Our CFO has 40 years experience. Okay. Give me a break. It's crazy. So we get our team together and we have all these experienced guys, and then we have the younger athletes like my son who just graduated, and the gentleman I talked to you about. We have a couple that have been out of college for 2 to 3, some 10 years, right? So we give this whole holistic look before we make decisions. Everybody has to agree on the process. So we have some lively debate, okay? But those younger guys and ladies, they keep us grounded for our business principles. So we deliver something that these younger people who learn, come on, give me a break. They're on that phone and TikTok, you name it, boom, boom, boom. That's how they learn. That's how we teach. Okay.
I love it.
That is the basis of FirstString.
Yeah, I love it. Great team, great technology, great platform using AI and really making a difference. And I would imagine that when an employer finally hires this student athlete and they bring them onto the team, I mean, they get a real high quality, high level person that's experienced some adversity, experienced a schedule, experienced winning and losing. And I think for a lot of employers, that's important because oftentimes people that are not in the athletic endeavors don't really get to experience those types of emotions, those types of feelings, those types of life experiences. Let's talk about your background just for a minute, Barry, because you've got a great background. One thing that you probably learned a lot from was being in the military. And when we ever talk about military, and we talk about people that have been in the military, people that, of course, that have been an officer in the military, you had a team or a group of people sort of working as part of your team that you led. So what did you take from that leadership position in the military now and put into place in your leadership position at the company?
Okay. You know what? Thanks for asking that question, because the military was a critical component of my growth in my life. Okay. At 22 years old, you're thrown into the Army, and you know what? So here's a platoon of very experienced, high functioning men and women, okay, that know what so much more than you do at that point, right? So you have to figure out how to use the gifts that you have and the leadership things that you have learned and traits you've learned. And you learn very quickly that it's not about you at all. It's about your team. It's the same with athletic. So what I took away from that, and had a very successful career in the Army, got out as a captain, and had the fortune to come on to corporate America. So jumped into corporate America, did Johnson & Johnson, did pharmaceutical sales for about 7 years, then said, gosh, you know what? There's too much in here. I want broad. I want vision. I want to do something different. So really landed a fantastic job with a group of people starting a biotech company. We joined it with no product. Okay. It was awesome experience. That company blew up. Those people were amazing that ran that company. It was just crazy. Did that for about 4 years. And then another company saw kind of the performance I had, I guess, looked out and said, hey, can you help us start international sales and marketing force for our biotech company, who they were already pretty successfully just started. And again, a bunch of amazing people. And that company, you know, I left it after 13 years, and it was a couple of $2 billion. But it's all about the people you bring on board. It's all about the empowerment you give them, and listen to their vision, listen to where the lens that they look through. Okay. Just like an athlete. I mean, you mentioned it. So bringing that to FirstString was pretty easy, because I brought in prior athletes, okay, and prior corporate America people who had all already figured that out. Okay, so this team just gets it. We get it, and we connect like that with almost every client we talk to. It's just the funnest thing you can do.
I love it. Of course, Tyler Jones, the co-founder and the vice president of business development. Your son was the former Division I student athlete, and we're going to bring him on a separate time, maybe, you know, a few months down the road, because we want to get his perspective of being a young sort of co-founder and somebody that sort of went through the trenches as a student athlete and then going into the job market. So that'll be very fascinating as well. But one thing that we thought about when we wanted to bring you on the show was, you know, there's this thing that you have and your team has that's very unique, and I call it the can-do attitude. There's no can't do at what you're doing at FirstString. So how important was it when you were raising your children to have a can-do attitude versus a can't-do attitude? Because Tyler here, you know, he's already a co-founder and vice president of business development. I would imagine his mindset is a can-do attitude versus a can't-do attitude. How important is that, do you think, not only to teach young people, but for student athletes that are about to hit the job market to start saying to themselves, I can do this?
You know what? A really phenomenal question, because that's kind of some of the things we teach. But you talked about me as a parent. Every parent's different. We all have different circumstances. But my children were raised, you know, respect the character and who a person is, no matter what they believe, what they look like, it doesn't matter. And if you gain the respect of someone, you gain the trust of someone, they become not just an acquaintance, a friend. Okay. And so if you approach the world like that and help someone every day, meet someone new every day, great things happen. And our team, I got to tell you, when you're on our calls, and it's crazy, like the positive energy is just, it's nuts. But a lot of us are in the second half of our career. We get now, we chase that dollar like everybody else. Okay. Now we're going to make a difference. We're going to make a difference in this thing. It's going to be amazing. Okay. And as far as Tyler's concerned, you look at him, I mean, again, being captain of the team, which was an honor he's very humbled by. And humbleness, by the way, something we teach these athletes, right? You're the top 1% of high school athletes. So act like the top 1% of employees when you get your job. Be humble, be open, be respectful of everyone. And so it's just the character traits that every parent teaches their young children. And more than ever, though, these athletes, that's not a big deal for them to take that and move it into the business world, because they had to live it most of the time. They had to respect their teammates and their coaches. They had to be coachable, right? They had to contribute overall. If they failed, the team lost. That's a lot of responsibility right here. Okay, so they're used to it. So let them help you meet your forecast. Boom, they're going to blow it out of the water for you. I'm going to tell you.
Boom, I love it. Of course, many years ago, there was an advertising campaign by Enterprise Rental Car Company. And on the television commercials, they were promoting the fact that they were hiring a lot of student athletes. A lot of their employee base came from athletics at the university. And I remember talking to my wife at that time and said, honey, we can use any car company, any car rental company for our next trip, but we're going to use Enterprise. I love what they're doing. So for the employers watching the show, reach out, go to FirstString, check it out, reach out to Barry, reach out to his team, because not only is it great for your company, but remember, the clientele or your customers will also resonate to the fact that you have student athletes that you've hired, that you've brought into the company to make the company great as well. So it's just a great, perfect circle that you've been able to build here, Barry. I love it so much. Before I let you go, I'd love to get on one of those Zoom calls with your team and hear all the energy, but I want to talk about entrepreneurship. We have younger entrepreneurs watching the show. Sometimes they freak out a little bit. They freeze in the frame. Maybe they don't know how to get through the pothole in the road. Maybe you can share some insight or some thoughts based on your experience and background about what these younger entrepreneurs can do to get through a pothole in the road and come out, the other end feeling very happy that they went through that sort of problem. They learned from it at the end.
Well, Andy, you know what? I wish I could tell them I knew the answer. But I don't. I don't know. Everybody has a different situation that they're up against. But I'll tell you this, if you never, ever, ever lose your vision and your focus, okay? Surround yourself only with positive people that have been successful in their life, because positivity breeds positivity, okay? And they'll keep you on course. Everybody's going to have a bad day, right? Well, when you get texts and you call those folks and they pick you up and they say, shake it off. It's just like when we were back on the field, when you were back at Oregon State in the day, right? If you messed up, you just got up, you brushed off the grass and you jumped back in the game again, right? But you kept focused. So it's surrounding yourself by the right team, okay? And then, it's all about never be shy about a connection. Networking is just so critically important. And by the way, we teach that to these college athletes. We teach them how to correctly network to impact the rest of their life, not just social network for college. Okay, so it all just really pulls together. If you get the right team, you talk to everybody you can, okay? And by the way, you always connect to other businesses that may be like-minded. Because what you will share with them and the relationship you will build with them I'm telling you, will come back to you 100%. So just stay the course. And when it comes to funding, when it comes to money, don't be shy. Every day, man, your job as that leader is to make sure everybody's taken care of, number one, everybody's happy. But your job as that CEO is to make sure you have the funding to treat these people right, that are giving you so much of their time. And a lot of times it's free.
Great advice, Barry. That's awesome. For the entrepreneurs watching the show, rewind what Barry just said. Here we are, FirstString, really preparing collegiate athletes for job success. I call it the game-changing career platform, really delivering a technology that connects employees and the college athletes, the employees, potential employees, the employers, and of course the universities in one platform. What a great idea, Barry. It's been such a delight to have you on the show. I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time, but I just love it so much. And we're going to watch FirstString, and just a great, fascinating interview. I can't wait to bring your son back on the show. We're going to talk a little bit more about his journey. And thanks so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Hey, you know what? Thank you for the opportunity. You're an amazing host. You know what? Thanks for bringing helping us tell people a little bit about what we're doing. And thanks for covering all these other companies that are up and coming and bringing great things to the world. Okay? I enjoyed it.